We are now at a very special part of our program. Dr. Wayne Lindwall is here to introduce to you the Orville Yanke Award. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Wayne Lindwall. Wayne Lindwall has had a long and distinguished career with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. He helped to develop land management strategies to improve soil, water, and air quality. Dr. Lindwall has a new book called Landscapes Transformed. Dr. Lindwall will be presenting the Orville Yanke Award to this year's recipient. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lindwall to the microphone.
Well, thank you very much, Evie. Oh, it's a tough act to follow. I think the future of agriculture is in good hands when you see the outstanding speakers from 4-H, a 10-year-old. I don't think I've ever followed a 10-year-old speaker, outstanding speaker, so congratulations. I also want to congratulate Ken Coles and the Farming Smarter group for their important role in fostering applied research and extension for the agricultural sector in southern Alberta. Through their annual farm school, 3-day farm school for the last several years, and conferences like this, they not only provide valuable and practical information for our producers, but they also promote the important role of the agriculture sector in the provincial and Canadian economy. When we don't hear a lot of those stories in the media these days because they seem to be focused on so many other things. So congratulations to Ken Coles and the Farming Smarter group. When the Farming Smarter group asked if I would be available for today's presentation and interested in presenting this year's Orville Yanke Award to Ron Svanes, I said immediately, of course, but then I also remembered that my boss since retirement, my wonderful wife Karen, sometimes has other plans for me this time of year, and either heading south or visiting grandkids, who are definitely our priority these days after I retired. But given our long and great relationship with both Ron and Edith, there was really no debate about participating today, and right after I had the call, we made a trip out to visit our new grandson that was born in Vancouver about 4 weeks ago, so we did make a trip out there. So, in any case, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Orville Yanke Award, it's a memorial award named in the honor of one of southern Alberta's earliest and most ardent soil conservation leaders. Orville Yanke is from the Medicine Hat area, actually Dunmore, and he played a pivotal role in founding both the Southern Alberta Conservation Association and the Southern Applied Research Association, the two organizations that merged in 2012 to form Farming Smarter. Since 2009, Farming Smarter has presented the Orville Yanke Award annually to celebrate a farmer or a researcher or other person in the industry whose contributions have significantly impacted soil conservation research and extension in southern Alberta. Some of the previous winners reads like who's who, in the agricultural industry and soil conservation. Last year, Ike Lanier, previously Rob Dunn, Ron Howard, Ross McKenzie, Don McLennan, Rick Swihart, how we miss Rick in terms of the publicity for agriculture in southern Alberta, Richard Fritzler, and Don Wentz. I acknowledge these previous winners of this prestigious award because I know Ron knew or worked with all of them. So it's a pretty small, tight family, but you're joining some distinguished company, Ron. I've had the great privilege of knowing Ron, and Edith for that matter, for 50 years. Boy, it's hard to believe. I don't feel that old, but I guess we must have been born together, right? Whatever. But when you go to university together, as Ron and Edith and I did, there is an everlasting bond and fellowship that endures the test of time, even though our careers can take us in different directions. Ron and I both graduated from the U of A in 1971. Ron was an ag-econ major, and he had always planned on going back to the family farm in Carmangay. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at the time because my parents thought I should find a job in something that was less risky than farming. I grew up in the Wrentham area. We farmed at Wrentham. But what I do remember about Ron is that we took many of the same courses together, because I was also an ag econ major along with ag engineering, since I tended to like equipment. All I do remember that Ron always got better grades than I did. It might have had something to do with some of my extracurricular activities, but I'm not going to get into those things. Nonetheless, I managed to survive and did okay as well in the end. Ron Svanes' many contributions to agriculture in southern Alberta span his entire lifetime. During his career, Ron served on the Alberta Research Institute, Canada-Alberta Environmental Sustaining Agriculture, evaluation committees, dryland salinity control associations, Alberta Environmental Farm Plan committees, et cetera, et cetera. And it was as a consequence of many of these Fed Prov programs that I was able to get resources to support research in soil conservation, whether it was chem fallow, minimum tillage, direct seeding. But it also gave me the opportunity to evaluate some of these principles at other locations, because people always questioned some of the findings that we had at the research center because they thought we had special soil, special land, artificial conditions. So it was pretty much a requirement back in the late 70s and early 80s to do your research, applied research, at other soil types across the prairie. And obviously Ron, living in the Carmen Gay area where they tended to have some wind erosion, salinity, his was one of my first choices, and I figured I had to take advantage of our friendship, even though Ron sometimes questioned, the rationale for some of the crazy things I was doing in those days. But nonetheless, I took advantage of that, and even though Ron was skeptical, he was more than willing to let me make some of my mistakes on his farm. And in many cases, we weren't able to get farmers that wanted having researchers on their place unless it was sort of on the back 40. And we always insisted to be fairly visible for subsequent tours that might have. So Ron was always kind enough to let us impose our trials near the major roads. And I think we started at his place back in the late 70s and were there for 15 or 20 years following, along with many other provincial government and industry people over the years. So Ron's farm was well known for applied demonstration and research. For us government researchers, it was important to have respected farmers like Ron in our corner, because we didn't always have that. We didn't get a lot of support even from other researchers or other scientists or extension people, but fortunately we had some supportive farmers like Ron, and I really appreciate his support over the years. Ron and Edith were also very generous in hosting tours. Because of the fact there were so many studies going on Ron's farm, we also took advantage of their generosity of bringing visitors from all over the world to their farm. And that meant a great deal to us, whether they were from Russia or China, all over the US, Europe. I can't imagine how many thousands of farm groups have toured Ron's operation. In addition to his support for agricultural research and applied research, Ron taught many farm management courses under the Gear Up Financially program because of his background in ag economics. Ron and Edith have traveled extensively, not just to their home country in Norway, but also they have established many friendships in Australia and have worked with provincial government people in hosting tours to Australia, particularly South Australia, and obviously returning groups coming back to their operation. These days, Ron is president of the Prairie Tractor and Engine Museum Society in Pitcher Butte that operates the pioneer-style village called Coyote Flats, and I've had the privilege of getting tours in our Rotary Club from Ron and the staff out there, and it's well worth visiting. Those of you who haven't had an opportunity to visit the Coyote Flats operation. The family now is pretty much, Ron's daughter and son-in-law have pretty much taken over their farm, but Ron is still there and helps out when he's wanted. And as I think Ron will mention that they started homesteading his family at the turn of the century. In fact, the year Alberta came into as a province, 1905. But Ron's dad joined the farm in 1913, And a few years ago, I guess it was the 100th anniversary of Ron's dad settling the farm. Ron invited us, my wife and I, out for a barbecue. He didn't mention there was about 400 others there for this barbecue, so it was one of the biggest barbecues I've ever attended, but it was impressive. I don't know how many hogs and cows you barbecued that day, but it was a memorable day, so I hope you mentioned some of that as well, Ron. Ron has been supportive of the ag industry, not just in soil conservation, but also the pulse industry and the wide range of commodity groups as well. Ron and Edith now look forward to a little more time on their own traveling the world, especially staying at their cabin outside Waterton Lakes National Park. And I don't think either of us could have imagined how the prairie landscapes have changed, Ron, over the last 25 years, thanks in large part to your leadership and commitment of other producers like yourself. Ron, it's indeed an honor for me to present you with this year's Orville Yanke Award. Please join me in congratulating Ron Svanes.
Wayne promised to take most of the time, and he did it. Thank you very much, Wayne. Appreciate that. Again, thanks, Wayne, for doing that, and thank you, Farming Smarter, for the nomination to the Orville Yanke Award. It means a lot to me, and especially sitting with my family in the back there, it's a proud moment. Thank you. As Wayne has said, we've gone back a long ways, and we were reminiscing about some of the adventures we had at the U of A, and we had a lot of the world problems solved, and then we'd always run out of beer, so that'd be the end of that. I belong to a lot of organizations, and a lot of them didn't pay very well, but the networking and the association of the friends that I had, and it was great coming today and seeing a lot of people that I have worked with over the years. And I really enjoyed this summer when Ken asked us, the Prairie Tractor Museum, to donate some machinery for demonstration purposes for their session. And it was like old school week with people like Rob Dunn and showing this old time equipment. And we had a lot of fun doing it, and so hopefully we'll do it again. Just a brief history of our farm. As Wayne said, we're a centennial farm. Edith and I started farming on our own in 1972. Essentially half and half rotation, half summer, fall, half crop. We had a lot of soil drifting going on, and we had a lot of alkali problems. The attitude back then was a lot of my neighbors were proud of the fact that they did their summer fall 7 times in 1 year. And then in the wintertime, the wind would blow, the soil would blow, and we would hide out either in the Grange Hotel in Kermangay or down in the basement. Alkali was another big problem in our area, and when you listen to myths, alkali was caused by seismic activity, and there was a possibility of doing that. But one neighbor told me that I got alkali because I used anhydrous ammonia. So that's kind of the backdrop that we're working with. With Wayne's encouragement, I kind of got into continuous cropping. My timing was absolutely wrong. I started in the 1980s, and I don't know if you guys can remember 84, 85, 88. terrible drought years. Most of my neighbors were older people that knew my dad well, and I did not go to the coffee shop much in those times because I was doing something different, and they were really worried I was going to lose the family farm, and at times so did I. With Wayne's encouragement, we certainly got into different cropping. I was so proud in '92, I finally got into a direct seeding drill, and it was the Victory Seedivator 9000. Boy, I was proud of that purchase. And then I talked to Wayne, and Wayne's comment, well, Ron, it's a start. And I can remember feeling so deflated over that. I thought, oh boy, Wayne's got pretty high standards here. But we've since moved on to Flexicoil and John Deere and Bourgault and really making progress. The other big change in our life is when Mandy married Jason in 2000. And it has really made a big difference in our lives. As Joe Swartz said, that how you take a square and make it into a circle, and I must admit, Mandy and Jason have done that for me. They've certainly opened the box for me, and hopefully I've opened the box a little bit for Jason too. We have a great team out there, and I'm so happy to see them here today. That really makes my day. Again, I thank you for this award. It's been fun. The people I've met, just throwing out some names that have been characters in the past, like Wayne Wildman Wilderman and Dan Stryker, and you meet individuals like that, and it really makes all your efforts worthwhile. Again, thank you very much.